He found out I wanted him to stay. 2 stories from the female perspective. Celebrated 27 years of marriage December 2020. I had an affair 6 years ago that ended horribly. Husband discovered. Went to counseling for only 5 months and marriage was stressed, strained and never the same. Rewind to 3 years into our marriage. He had a one-night stand. He confessed that 22 years later. He also confessed to having 2 one-night stands while he was out of the country on business in an 8-page handwritten letter to me. While in counseling, he took a girl he worked with who is 22 years younger than him and singled out to lunch several times. I discovered this by looking at our bank statements and shared all our marital woes with her. I confronted him and called her and asked her to never accept another invitation and to stay out of our marriage. 6 years later and they still communicate. He told our kids she was safe and they're just friends. Months later, he was planning his 30-year high school reunion and was poking around on Facebook and friend requested some girl he had never met but thought was in his class. I saw a text preview from her while we were driving and asked who she was. He turned white and I could see his heart pounding out of his chest. I saw all of their FB chats and they went from getting to know each other to him pouring his entire heart out to her and sharing every detail about our marriage with her. He even shared a blog I wrote with all my private thoughts that I let him read and they discussed it in secret, to flirting and faces and saying good night and telling her she was beautiful. Just like my wife. Such an invasion to our marriage. Facebook chats went to emails, then texts and calls. He said they were just friends. My gut told me otherwise. 4 years go by and my ex-affair partner apologized. We talked for months. He is going through a divorce. March 3rd, husband was interviewing for a job out of state, sending me pictures of the sunset and telling me he loved me. March 4th, his STBX sent my husband a dozen texts claiming I was on the phone with her STBX till 1 a.m. I never had a chance to defend myself. My husband believed her. Our phone records prove we weren't. March 5th, husband called her and slept in our guest room. March 20th, I was out of town visiting our new grandson. Without a word to me, he leased a townhouse. March 24th, after a 4-hour-long conversation, he called a florist and had flowers delivered to her home. March 25th, he traveled to see our grandson and spent more time visiting a friend that lived near our son. Much of the time he was texting or calling her. My kids and I watched how erratic his behavior was and it scared us. I opened his laptop while he was out and saw all the phone records, saw the rental agreement, saw a sensual picture of her with her boobs hanging out saved to his desktop. This is a woman who was arrested a year ago for domestic violence and resisting arrest. March 29th, we talked and I got confirmation from him that he was spending time at her home and about giving her the flowers. March 30th, he moved out and I haven't had a civil conversation with him since. He started sending threatening texts to me. He turned my cell phone off. He had all of our financial retirement paperwork being sent to his work address. He changed the passwords to every account we have together. He came over when I wasn't home and took pots and pans and other kitchen items, pillows, etc. We met one time to talk and his behavior literally scared me. A man who never swore at me in 27 years was looking at me and saying I can go where I want. I can be with who I want. I can do what I want. He told me that he was only going to give me $400 for the month for my daughter and I to live on, and I was terrified, so I consulted with a lawyer. I brought every document and bill and tax record I could get my hands on. I told him I met with an attorney and it infuriated him, enough to scream and yell with his veins popping out saying if you drown me financially, all 4 of our kids will ducking hate you. Then the claims of me stealing his laptop or destroying it started and I filed. He was served April 8th at work. First court date he didn't retain counsel. But he walked up to my attorney and waved the petition at him and said, everything in this is a lie, and then told him that we're doing this my way, not yours. My attorney told me that he thinks there's something psychologically wrong with my husband. He sent our 3 oldest kids a fact email, listing off all of my sins and excusing the things he thought I told them about him. He minimized what he has done and maximized what I had done, devalued and demonized me to our kids. My oldest hasn't spoken to me in months. All of my kids are spinning in disbelief. We kept our marital problems to ourselves and didn't involve them. He's lied to our kids about my ex-affair partner's wife and him being just friends. Just friends don't send pictures or spend 23 hours and 45 minutes on the phone in a month, or get a secret cell phone so I can't keep track of their communication, or send them flowers, or spend the night at her place when her 20-year-old daughter is out of town. 4 days after being handed divorce papers, he went and bought a brand new car. His car payment went up $150. He canceled every credit card I had access to. He drained our joint checking account to $0 and had all of our mail rerouted to his new townhouse. When I went to my doctor to get antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds, I went to pay for them and he drained our health savings account card down. He's even accused me of keying his car and of calling his landlord 30 times. I feel like I'm going insane and have no idea who he is anymore. I haven't worked for 26 years. I got my first part-time job last year. Our kids are 26, 23, 19 and 15. He makes well over 6 figures. Now, I got his counter petition and he's asking for custody of our youngest, claiming I'm an unfit mother. Yet 2 weeks before he actually said I have always been an excellent mother. She doesn't want to live with him. He wants me to pay him child support. I make about $8,000 per year right now. He wants me to pay all of our family debt. He wants me to pay all of his attorney's fees and he wants me to sign an agreement that I will never get spousal support. He's already asked a real estate agent, one who is trying to set him up with a girl in her office already, to draw up a sales contract to short sale our house, and we're only 6 weeks into our divorce. All behind my back. He wants me to have nothing and be homeless. I've never done this before. Got married way too young, trusted him with everything financial, and I'm seeing that we have an extra $2,000 every month after all the bills are paid, and I have no idea where it's been going. He asked me to dump the attorneys cause they're dumb ducks that will just take $10,000 from each of us and wanted mediation. He asked this on the day he got the financial document papers and interrogatories. He's a monster. I am terrified and lost and can't sleep or eat. So, I'm here. What can I do? My attorney says everything has an electronic fingerprint, so he wants me to trust him with everything financial, and that has to do with the law. It feels like my limbs have been cut off. Being in a home alone, sleeping by myself, feeling complete anxiety if I get an email from him. For my sanity, I had to block him from texting or calling me. I was about to have a nervous breakdown from the sound of his ring and text tones. Has anyone else been married this long and been left completely high and dry? My husband is in an affair, and it's sick and like a weird Lifetime movie that it's with my STBX. Such revenge, and what a pathetic way to have a relationship. One that's based on hating each other's spouses and secrecy. How do I handle my children and the horrific things he said about me to them? How can he justify spreading rumors about me and gossiping about me? He's played the victim and blamed everything on me. I'm struggling mentally. My comment: from the small snapshot you've provided, I would say both of you could really use some help in your boundaries and relationship skills. I don't think either of you have a good chance in obtaining a successful relationship with anyone until you work through these issues you've portrayed. That does not mean that you should necessarily work them out with each other, but rather independently before you try fixing or starting a relationship. Once you begin to get control of yourselves, you can get into marriage counseling. I'm sorry to say it, but I think your marriage is toast, and maybe it's for the better. You both seem toxic to each other, have multiple cheating episodes, and I sense you both are locked in a cycle of marital failure. Sometimes you just have to break the cycle, and, in this case, it looks like divorce is a beginning. The only other viable option is if you both mutually commit to absolute honesty and shoulder your respective baggage and deal with your issues with a counselor. And that's just the beginning. There's a lot more, and without full commitment on each of your parts, the marriage is doomed. Good luck on whatever you decide. Story 2. After pushing my husband for what was wrong and why he didn't want to improve our marriage earlier today, he burst out crying, saying he didn't want to have this conversation because that meant our relationship was over. Apparently, he doesn't love me anymore and thinks that he might have never loved me at all. He just loved the idea of being in love. I'm going to try and find us a marriage counselor this week. He's agreed to go even though he doesn't think it will help. I met my husband over 2 years ago and we've been married for about 14 months now. Up until 2 months ago, we were both going to school full-time, with some classes together, and working, spending most of our time together. He didn't hang out with friends much and I flew 4,000 miles to be with him. So needless to say, I didn't have many friends either. It was just us hanging out. Bills were very tight, but we made it work. Then his slot for military tech school came up and he begged me to come with his and have a vacation while he went to class. Since I didn't want to be apart from him for 4 months, I accepted, and we took a 3-week-long road trip across the USA to see my parents and his daughter. We got terribly sick from a hotel on arrival and spent the next 2 weeks incredibly ill. After a few weeks down here, he started making friends in his classes and hanging out with them after class. I didn't mind. After all, he'd never really had many friends that he saw regularly up north. Then 1 week ago, he starts working out with them 4 hours after class to get in shape for me, and after being distant me all the time. During the first part of the week, I found a book, his needs, her needs, that I wanted to try with him to improve our marriage, but I couldn't get him interested. Earlier today, I kept up asking him what was bothering him and why he didn't want to work on our relationship. After about 5 minutes, he burst out crying and said that because if he did, it would mean our relationship was over, and he wanted to wait till we were both in his home state to tell me that he wanted a divorce to make it easier on me. He said that he's not in love with me anymore and he's not sure if he ever was, or if he just wanted the feeling of being in love. He said it's not our marriage that's bad, it's that over time he found out that he wasn't right for me, and being down here out with friends brought it to light. He said he just desires to be out alone with his friends and coming back to an empty place each night. He said he's done everything over the last few months to try and be happy with me, but they just can't see a future with me in it anymore. He still cares for me, but he doesn't want to be married. He said he's gone through the improvement phase and now just wanted to end it. He always internalizes everything, and I asked how he thought he could hope to fix a marriage that has two people in it without letting me know and us doing it together. And he told me that it didn't matter now and he just wanted it over with. When we first got together, this was the man that cried at the airport when saying goodbye to me for the first time. I don't get what's happened between us. I know our marriage was rough before and we couldn't really afford to go out and do many fun things, but I thought we were happy together. He's agreed to try and read the book I wanted and go to marriage counseling with me. But he doesn't think that either will work. He just wants to be single. He also says the book won't do any good because he doesn't want anything from me and doesn't want to improve our marriage to be the best ever. He just wants out. I also offered him this next week as a separation of sorts. We have 2 bedrooms. He already moved into the other one, and told him that he can go do whatever he wants and we'll stay out of each other's way. And after 1 week he can see how he feels. He said though that he already knows that's what he wants, so it wouldn't help. In 2 weeks, we'll be heading back north since his classes are done with. At that point in time, I need to decide if I should be trying to make a marriage work with someone who either doesn't want it to work or doesn't think it will. If I leave, I know it'll be over for good. It's embarrassing to stick around when all he wants to do is go out alone, but I keep thinking that when I leave it's over with and I'll never know what would have happened if I stayed for a bit longer. All in all, I'd welcome any advice, even though I'm feeling like it's already over. Our marriage has had our ups and downs, but honestly, he seemed happy until this last week. I've asked him multiple times over the last week if there was someone else. He hasn't been interested in bonding, which is incredibly odd for him. The only thing that made sense was he's taking amino acids for working out and just ordered pills because they make him feel sick all of the time. I believed it because he's finally at a place where all the guys are in incredibly good shape and he has people to work out with. And he sends me photo texts when he's at the gym. But yes, it does seem weird. I honestly don't know what to believe anymore. At this tech school though, he's a prior and any of the girls he's mentioned that are in his class are non-priors and he's not allowed to hang out with them after class. So, if he has or done anything more, he could be in some serious crap. All the non-priors though are so admiring of the older guys. So, it would be easy to assume that this is happening. And he's just on an ego trip from that and finally having money to blow and a few friends to go out with. Trust me though, I know how bizarre it sounds. I've been in shock since he told me that he wanted to end it earlier today. I'm not 100% sure who he's hanging out with after class. The first few days he'd send me photos of them working out or playing basketball though. So until now I didn't question it. I think when we do get back north, he'll snap back to reality. He's told me he doesn't like being single before, ironically enough. So, I assume when I do leave, if he's not emotionally involved with someone yet, he will be quickly afterwards. And he's 26 and I'm 28. Thought he was mature enough, go figure. Unfortunately, he works in a very high-level IT field, so even if he was talking to someone I didn't know about, it would be very hard to figure it out. He's smart enough to delete, cover everything up. I can try with his phone bill, but he has one of those pay-per-month plans which doesn't lock you into a provider, which I'm assuming will make it harder to get access to the data. We should be going to marriage counseling sometime this week. It seems like he's already checked out of the marriage though and doesn't want to go back. So I'm not that hopeful. He's asked me what I would do if the counselor told me it's over, or asks him to try something new, wants him to make changes. Both of which he said he doesn't want to do. The few times we've spoken tonight, it's like Honcho said, talking to a brick wall of I just want to be single now and I don't know. It's completely terrible when the person you're with just one day decides not to care about your marriage anymore. I really hope the other possible divorces are having better luck than I am with their spouses. While it sounds a lot like he's cheating, I don't think it's worth the emotional toll it would take on me to stick around and try and figure it out or the real reason this is happening. At the end of it all, I would have just spent more time on a man who's obviously not worth it to find out that he might be cheating. Overnight from that horrible day, I've gone from asking him how it happened, what we could do to change, how to get back to how we were, or trying to come up with that one perfect idea that would make it all get better again, to realizing that at this point the only thing that I can do is to take care of myself. I've distanced myself from him as much as possible while still being civil with him during conversations we need to have, and started doing my own thing each evening for dinner and entertainment when he comes back with the car we're sharing down here and has his friends pick him up. As hard as it is, I know just sitting around in our resort in a beach town will only make it worse, so while I'm still here I may as well do something, anything to try and enjoy myself, which has led him to question me about my day and what I've been out doing, since I'm normally back after him, and seem kind of miffed that I appear to not care about him anymore or his day or want to be around him. If I'm out late because I went to dinner and decided to see a movie, he texts me to see what I'm doing and if I'm alright. He seems to still want to treat me like he did before, but more as friends, and that's totally not alright and probably never will be. I was lucky enough to get a counseling appointment 2 days after everything happened. Going in, I knew nothing was going to change, but I thought being in there would help my understanding of the situation and how it changed so abruptly. But it didn't. Things that he said over and over again to me the first day, like I just want to be single. I don't know why you can't understand that, or I don't love you anymore like I should, and I'm not sure if I ever did, or if I was just in love with being in love, or we can go to counseling, but I won't change anything if they ask me to, because I just want to be single, or this is just how I am. I'm emotionally closed off and don't want to share my feelings, and if you don't like it, that's just another reason to not be together. He all denied saying them. At least the bold parts. It's incredibly frustrating that he feels the need to lie in front of a woman that's there to help, who he's never going to see again. Although it made me realize even more so that this is who he is now. Whether it be embarrassment over the things he said or how abruptly it came about, this is what he considers okay to do to me. And though I have a hard time seeing it right now, I know that I do deserve better. At this point, the only people he's talked to about the divorce are his friends down here. And the big change I saw in him around me, I know, came after he talked to one of his friends originally about our relationship. To me, it's weird that he doesn't want to talk to anyone in his family about us getting a divorce at all. But at this point, there's no making him do anything. In about 3 weeks, we'll be back in his hometown, and I'll have to go pack up and things I had stored at his parents'. It'll be interesting if I'm the first one telling them after 1 month that he wants a divorce. Especially if he doesn't come with me that day, though it looks like that's becoming a real possibility. We talked last night for a bit, and he asked if I would agree to an uncontested divorce, and I told him that as long as he does everything financially that he's promised, I will sign the papers either way. But only after that's all done. He wanted to put any promises he couldn't fulfill by the time I'd left as just a stipulation in the divorce papers. But I told him I wanted everything completed, and then and only then I would sign, since it seems like he wants to move very fast on this. I figure I'll have more success with him keeping his promises this way. My other thought was having him draw up the papers stipulating what is to be, would be done, and have him sign, but then not signing until he actually took those actions. Either way, then I would have it in writing. I'll have to check state laws though to see if I can sign them after leaving, because I do not want to fly back and see him again after I'm gone. If anyone has any experience with any of this, let me know. It's surreal that in 4 days we'd gone from married to married and dividing up finances for a divorce. But at this point there isn't much to hang on to, so I don't see the point of drawing it out further. Now I'm just attempting to make sure I get taken care of with what we should have at the beginning of May. My entire family is very anxious that as soon as we get back north, he'll change his mind and ask me to stay and work on it, and that I'd agree. However, even though I see the marriage very emotionally at times, I can see it very logically. I know if it was this easy for him to do to me, I should get out now even if he changes his mind, since he could just as easily do it 3, 5, 10, 20 years down the road again, and I will have only invested more time into someone who's shown me they are not capable of working on a marriage long term. Also, I've always considered my family a decent judge of character, and they now either hate him, desire to cause him bodily harm if he ever shows up on my doorstep, or both. In these first few crazy days, they've been my support system to guide me through and go, no, he's an immature idiot and you're better than that. This may be a crazy and terrible situation, but this isn't your fault. You shouldn't blame yourself or feel foolish for trusting him or that he wants to end it now. You'll find someone better who won't run off on a whim and is better than he ever was or will be. I can't fathom not having them around to help me through this, and feel completely lucky that I do, because I know that's not always the case. Since that first day it's been hard, but that first day afterwards has been my most important day so far, and each day I plan something to do instead of just sitting around being sad. It's my thing to look forward to that has nothing to do with our divorce and is just about me each day. I guess my main thing I'm trying to get across, or to anyone else reading this going through the same thing, I didn't focus on not being sad because I knew I was going to be sad. I focused on the things that I knew would make me happy even if I was sad, and on things that seemed incomprehensible for me to be doing, like painting my nails or going to the gym, that I knew would make me feel worthwhile after I'd finished. I have 4 choices to make. 1. Get his signature on the divorce paperwork and take it with me when I fly to another state, only signing it when he's completed what he couldn't financially by the time I leave. I would have to check to see how it works, if it's even possible to sign it out of state, and how to get it back to them. I want to avoid mailing it to him or his family, so I'll need to see if there's another route. 2. Get his signature on the divorce paperwork and stay out there until he completes everything it says he has to do financially. 3. Sign it and have it notarized together and turn it in before I fly out of state. 4. Sign it and have it notarized together and turn it in. Then stay out there till he completes everything he said he'd do financially. In regard to them all, I'm not that crazy about staying out there more than I have to. However, I don't know when I'm out of state what actions I could take to get him to complete his financial responsibilities that far away. Even if I was closer, does this always involve a lawyer? Besides drawing up the divorce paperwork, I'd like to avoid any other fees since we don't have that much to begin with. I also need to check and see if the divorce paperwork is processing. What happens if he changes his mind? I hope one person can't stop a divorce proceeding after they've signed just by themselves. He asked me 2 nights ago if I would agree to an uncontested divorce and then said he would pay for the fees to have them drawn up. So, if this statement holds, and I'm not saying it will, then hopefully he'll pay for them to be done. I need to start asking him to make an appointment with the lawyer. I doubt he's done this. That way we can get it over with as soon as we're back, before he changes his mind if he does. Yes, I don't know much about divorce. I know that it takes 90 days to process after it's in the system, and I don't think we're required to do anything if we both agree to it. However, I should check. This is my first divorce, so I'm not really sure what to expect, and I'm assuming that's not the best position to stay until we get there. I thought having the papers drawn up and getting him to sign and then holding off on doing it myself would cover both areas, making him hurry up so it would process and having it in writing to turn in if I needed to. I just don't know enough about the process, and I assumed it could backfire horribly if I don't know what I'm doing. I need to know more still. There is definitely something not right about him now since this all started. He just got back early from a weekend trip to the beach with his friends. And even though he just told me 6 days ago, randomly, he wants a divorce, he feels free to whip off his shirt to let me see his hilarious sunburn because he forgot to put any lotion on his back at the beach, and then come out of his bathroom after a shower in just a towel and wander around our place looking for clothes, even through everything else he's done. I guess what annoys me the most, and I'm sure everyone else who's gone through this, is how he acts like now that we're not going to be married. We're friends, and I should still care a lot about what's going on with him. I won't, and even if I catch myself wanting to, I'll remind myself never again. I'm feeling good at the moment though. The only thing I have to be sad about right now is that he ruined my first beautiful weekend alone without him. I'm now entering the pissed phase. From the way my STBX has started wording his comments about not knowing how to talk to women at bars or other events, I know that he's already on the lookout for someone new or some casual encounter. He's also started responding to people's posts on the Reddit personals that are looking to meet up, have a threesome, or swinging. Last Thursday I got asked out to dinner after going to the movies alone. I declined though. It was pretty late and I'm not ready for that type of thing yet. The next day he asked me what I did, so I told him the movies, and I got asked to dinner but didn't go. I didn't even mention it was a guy. Now he's been asking me how many dates I've been out on because I go out and do something every evening to get away. Mainly movies and dinner. I've been doing everything alone and I just keep telling him no dates. And he keeps commenting on how it's so easy for women to get asked out compared to men. Does he really think I'm going to have sympathy for him not knowing how to pick up other women? I guess the group he was hanging out with last weekend, he found out one girl there thought he was cute, but she made out with someone else all evening. Real winner there. At first, I thought he was asking because thinking I was doing fine made him feel better. Now I think he feels like it's some sort of contest though, or if I'm getting asked out, he better put himself out there. I'm not sure if this is his response to me being asked out or if it was just going to develop anyways. It seems quite fast, but it just goes to show what type of person he is, I suppose, if he's been doing this 6 days after he told me he wanted a divorce. It makes me feel bad that I even mentioned I got asked out for dinner. But hey, he asked and it's not like I actually did it. I can't control what other people do when I go out to the movies, and if he didn't really want to know, he shouldn't have asked. I ask him nothing and I get to hear about it anyways at odd times. I tried not giving him general information about what I was doing in the evenings. And yes, he raged. However, since we're going to be driving 40 hours together next week and I want things to stay civil between us, I've just decided to tell him what I'm doing generally. Yes, I realize I shouldn't have to, but I'd rather maintain some semblance of civility between us until the papers are signed and I leave. Besides all that, it just feels like he's finding reasons to nitpick at me over stupid issues. Why I didn't immediately return his text. I told him I didn't get it because my phone was on silent. Then ensued an argument over I was out using his car and I didn't even respond in case he was having an emergency. He didn't actually have an emergency and he didn't actually need anything. He just wanted to complain because he thought I was ignoring him, which he wanted an apology for, and for not filling up the tank in the car we'd both been using all week. I've cut off a few arguments that were gearing up this week with the words I don't want to argue right now because I'm starting to realize that I just don't care anymore about the marriage. I know it can't be saved and I don't want it to be anymore, especially after realizing that he was trying to meet other people. Yes, it cuts, but after that the only thing that remains is a growing hatred, numbness, and indifference. Other than that, I went to my first individual counseling. He focused on helping me financially and emotionally. While we did talk about my STBX, the main point was on me and what I wanted, which is to move on. Topics were figuring out what I wanted now or in the future, knowing myself, focusing on happiness, not blaming myself for the divorce, and realizing that I could probably save the marriage if I changed everything about myself. But I shouldn't want to because I wouldn't be happy anyways. He also prepared me for the possibility that in the next few weeks my STBXH was going to ask for me to take him back before I left and what my response would be that way. I was prepared for it. I've talked to a lawyer and I'll be ordering divorce paperwork this week. I've been keeping track of financial and insurance stipulations I'd like included when everything is drawn up. I already have the money from him to pay for the whole thing, so that's good. Things are coming together slowly, and he's beginning to tell a few more people, either because he needs to find out what lawyer he used, like from his ex-wife, or friends have texted both of us and he tells them, although I still don't think he's talked to his family. Any friends we've had together, even those closer to him who he told about the divorce, tell me that they can't understand what he's doing or why, and it seems like he just had a crazy feeling and ran with it. I haven't bothered telling him the trending opinion on his actions. Overall, I'm doing decent, looking forward to having everything finished and my flight back my hometown. I'm also coming up with a mental list of things I never want in a guy ever again. Another update. A few days ago, I discussed the divorce stipulations with my STBXH. Honestly, I'm not asking for anything outrageous, but he nitpicked through it. Then we came to the whole conversation of why things needed to be listed on the divorce papers at all. I heard many excuses about why I shouldn't have to list them, including, then it wasn't a gift if it was listed on the papers. Then it made him feel like he had to do it or do it within a certain period of time if he couldn't afford to. Then he said that he didn't want to do it at all if I didn't trust him to do it. Anyways, after he agreed to what was listed, then he for my rings back. That was a no. Then he tried asking me what I was going to give him, even though he said I had nothing he wanted. I told him I was giving him the divorce he wanted. Apparently, agreeing to get a divorce, an uncontested one at that, in a county where we don't have to both appear in court or go through marriage counseling together to get it all processed, is not enough for him. The only reason I even agreed to work with him in an uncontested divorce was because he wanted to help me move forward, and most of the stipulations were his idea. After everything was done, he warned me that in the future I shouldn't expect people to do this much for someone else. Like he's doing me some huge, massive favor by agreeing that he'll sign the papers listing what he said he would do all along. Moving on from that conversation, the next day I asked him when he'll be back from his weekend out-of-town trip with the guys. Basically, I wanted to know if he'd be spending the night. I like planning my days around when he'll be in the resort, that way I can do something else. When he was not getting the concept, I just said it's good for both of us to have our space at this time. Then he asks if I don't want to hang out with him, why am I driving back with him at all, and why I don't just leave immediately to go back to my hometown. So, I remind of the long list of things that I need to do back up there. So, he storms away swearing, and after giving him a few minutes I tell him I want to keep the remainder of our time together civil and ask him again if he'll be back or he's staying the night out of town. He finally informs me that he's not spending the night, in between swearing at me and telling me to leave him the hell alone. So, I do. Fast forward 20 minutes. I've left to get boxes for packing and get a message from him asking if I'm trying to bring a guy back to the resort. Is that why I want to be out during the day so badly? I just reply no. The man who said it didn't bother him to think about me with other guys is now freaking out, thinking that I'm off trolling for men to lure back to our place when he's not here. And that's why I'm always out, and wanted to know when he'll be back from out of town with the guys. And all this less than 2 weeks since he asked for the divorce. I feel as if I'm dealing with a child. It's like he only wanted a divorce when he thought he'd have fun out picking up women with his friends, or when he thought I would be pining away after him and crying in my room all day long. And now the reality is rather different than what he expected. I knew this would happen eventually, but anything that I need to go over with him, even the smallest question, he just turns into a huge dramatic event. I'm really seeing another side of him these last 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure he's talked 10 times worse to me today than the last 3 years of arguments combined. I just keep telling myself less than 3 weeks to go and I'll finally be away from him and won't look back. Another update. Last night I'm sitting in my room laughing on the phone with one of my friends, and he comes in a few times to ask me stuff. The very last time he comes to the door all serious like and looking distraught. He wants to talk in his room sitting on his bed. I get in there and he starts going into how he thinks it was the amino acids changing his mood and emotions, and how he's been thinking about this for a while now, and he's really sorry about how he treated me and handled the whole situation. So, he finishes saying his piece and just sits there looking at me to see what my reaction will be. At this point I'm thinking, what in the hell do I say back to this man? And then I realize, what do I actually hope to achieve from this conversation, and what do I actually want? So, after a few moments I just settle on, okay, and since you're free at the moment, can you sign the divorce papers now? I realize that I don't care to get into some heated argument about how he's wronged me, what a monster he's been, how he's treated me less than a person at times, or how random strangers have showed more kindness in a few moments than he could that whole road trip. And while a part of me likes to think I'm above all this petty, nasty, immature crap he always reverts back to doing in a moment's notice, I also realized I just don't care anymore. I don't want anything from him besides what the divorce paperwork says he'll do, and I sure as hell don't want to help him get over his guilt about how he's treated me. And while it was a very harsh moment to bring up signing the paperwork, I'm assuming without putting it into words it also let him know without a shadow of a doubt how I feel about him currently. and will hopefully put a stop to all future sad and regretful conversations he tries to bring up, at least until I'm gone. And yes, he did sign the divorce paperwork. Actually, without reading a single word on any of the 4 documents. He's either very trusting, very dumb, or I caught him completely off guard with my request. 3 months later, he told me that he went to military counseling after I left to try and figure out why he wanted to leave me. He thought that he was bipolar and they were investigating it. If he was, they would have kicked him out of the military. However, none of that ended up happening, so I have no idea what conclusion he came to with it. Other than that, he learned a lot in counseling and it helped him to make some choices about me. Not that they were completely his to make. Around a month and a half ago, he asked if I wanted to try and work on our relationship again. Things happen every day to him that remind him of me and it tears him up inside. And that he was willing to spend the rest of his life apologizing for the mistakes he'd made. He said he'd been waiting for me to bring it up again, since I had so many times within the first few days of him asking me for a divorce, and that he needed to ask me before I was completely out of his life. I basically just responded that since he wanted a divorce so badly in the beginning, I think we should see it through, especially since the papers were signed and it was already processing. To which he responded that he's sorry that he hurt me so bad that I've begun to hate him, and that he couldn't stress how wrong he was in the end, but he completely understands that I want nothing to do with him. And then that he didn't want to let the chance go by, that he wanted to be with me, and if I had any desire for the same go by, and him missing that chance before it was too late. Which he said was probably when he incorrectly stated that he didn't love me anymore. I never corrected him about me hating him or any other emotional conclusions he's come to since I've left. I'm not sure why now I'm starting to feel like this again. I could list countless reasons why I'm stupid to still feel this way and why he's a terrible person. Everything he's put me through, it just doesn't make sense. The only things that have changed recently were that he didn't email me back instantly last week. I can't actually tell if he was doing it on purpose to annoy me, since he then wrote me back exactly a week later from when I wrote him, down to the 5-minute time difference. Maybe I'd gotten used to hearing from him within 10 minutes to a few days of writing him. The last time I wrote him was about not getting the paperwork for our divorce being finalized yet when I thought it would be, since he's keeping me on his health insurance till we're officially divorced. And he either got confused about 30 days ago and thought it was already final, or was just fishing for a reaction from me. So I'm trying to be ultra clear with him these days. Anyways, he wrote back that it's okay about the divorce and that he really doesn't care that much anymore. Which of course wasn't great to hear right now, but it's good to know because I need to snap out of this relapse in missing him. I guess the point I'm trying to get at is that I don't know if I miss him or if I just miss the thought of him. When I think about our time together, the whole time, I look back and don't really see something that I should be missing. Also, the logical part of me knows that I should never attempt to be with this man ever again, even if I do miss the actual him. With everything he's put me through, and honestly, he sends me an email to see if I want to work on the relationship. After hinting around about it for months, who does that if it really matters that much to someone? He didn't even call me to talk about it. Or I don't know, we were married, fly out here and show up at my door begging to have me back. I don't know why I'm lingering on my response to him asking if I'd like to work on it a month and a half ago. Maybe because I wasn't really honest with him back then about how I felt. But I guess I don't want to trust my feelings to someone who wanted me gone at the drop of a hat and maybe wanted me back that way too. Looking back, I probably should have never responded to him at all through email. I was doing it so he'd cooperate with the stipulations of our divorce, and I still really feel like if I hadn't, he wouldn't have completed it all. Almost a year later, final update. Between full-time college and work, I don't have much spare time. And sometimes I get caught up in long stretches and don't think about my divorce or my ex. On the plus side, I already managed to get a job in my field less than 1 year into my degree. The place is really awesome and I can almost say I love being at work. Also, I'm already racking up experience for my resume whenever I graduate. So, yay. Sometimes though, out of the blue, everything that's happened still derails me from an otherwise great day. I don't know if it's the suddenness of how it all happened or the fact that I never really told him off throughout the entire process. Or just remembering how our relationship was initially and wondering what in the world happened for it to end that way. During those times, I like to go back and read my messages to friends and family during what I've deemed my month to hell and back. Nothing like hearing what you've written about someone who broke your heart and kept treating you like less than a person for a month to bring you back to reality. Anyways, I haven't heard from him for about 2 months now. He was emailing me and even admitted being creepy and stalkerish when he realized I'd blocked him on some social media and asking me about my life. The last email I sent, I'd finally taken him up on his offer to send me things he'd found of mine. He'd asked if I'd wanted him to mail them out. Since then, I haven't heard from him at all. While I've contemplated emailing him again for it, I just don't feel like it's worth it to me. I'm now assume he's either finally done talking, he's getting off on knowing I want something that I accidentally left behind and can't replace, or he knows once I finally have everything of mine, I'll have no reason to keep talking to him. Yes, he said that last exact line to me. So, who knows? It's going on about 5 months now though that I've been officially divorced. I feel like at this point I should be way past where I am feeling, at least today. But I guess there's no official timeline. On long stretches where I've felt awesome and no need to dwell on the past, I've dabbled in dating but eventually find myself wanting to spend my decreasing amounts of free time not having to worry about someone other than myself. That's where I am right now though. I wish I could say I'm over it and that place is just a dark spot in my memory that I skip over on rainbows. But I'm just not there yet. I hope anyone else recovering from being blindsided by a divorce is doing better. My comment hopes some viewers out there appreciate the wife's perspective today. I got another great lesson tomorrow morning.